nuclear warheads at us, and he calls us Satan of the Western Hemisphere, all right? We're going to find out what he's done. Let's talk about Cubans say 270,000 were ready to fight the U.S. in '62 when the missiles were going to be launched. And were they going to be launched? Good proof of that from the Soviet Union themselves. They say nuclear warheads were deployed in Cuba in 1982, and that Senor Castro, el presidente de muerte, a president of death, wanted them to be sent here. Now, what is the feeling of Americans in this audience, Americans at home, knowing that that was the past with Fidel Castro and not the too distant past? What are the feelings of Americans about Fidel Castro right now? The government, we don't know what their feelings are because they have another itinerary and another agenda. And we don't know if that agenda includes us, even though we're American citizens. Any folks in here, I'm not going to wait until the third, fourth, or fifth segment. Any folks in here who want to talk about Cuba, Castro, do you know anything about what's going on? Sir, come on down here. Ma'am, come on down. Anyone else in the audience? Anyone in the audience tonight? Sir, come on down here. Anyone who wants to say a damn thing, pal, get your butt down here. Get up to the loudmouth. You got it first.
You know, personally, I don't like what he does, but I admire the man. I like him. He's a genius. Because there's not that many people that can go into the mountains and without money and with only a handful of people take over a country.
Wait a second, man.
And this world is about power. If you have power, if I was in Cuba, I'd be a communist. I'm here, I'm a capitalist. And I have family, in Cuba. And my grandfather was executed in Cuba. My other grandfather...
Who was your grandfather executed by?
By the Cuban government.
Which government? Batista, Castro, who?
By the Castro
Wait a second,
government.
man, I'm going to come to you. Believe me, sweetheart, you're going to get it. But you would be a communist in Cuba.
If I was in
so
Cuba,
you have
I'd be a
no
communist.
principles whatsoever, right?
I'm here, I'm a
you'll
capitalist.
sell out to the highest bidder.
Not sell out to the
Of course
highest
you'll
bidder.
sell out. You just said you would.
If I'm there, why am I going to make my life miserable?
Well, then we should all be British here because we're a bunch of Americans who made their lives miserable to get the British
I'm
out
here.
of here.
I was in the army here, and I would go fight for this country.
Good.
All right?
But would you fight if we had to fight Castro?
Of course.
And would you go down there and kill?
Of course. But I still like him.
You like him?
I still like him,
There's a lot of guys who
the
like
guy's
Hitler.
a genius.
A genius.
I admire...
A Boy Scout can go into the woods, pal.
I admire Hitler, too. But a Boy Scout... Wait a minute. In a way, yes. In a way.
How do you admire... How do you admire mass murderers?
I don't like what he did, but the guy was a genius, just like Castro.
Would you like to be like him?
Like Hitler?
Yeah.
I'd like to be as smart as he is, but I wouldn't kill all the Jews.
He ain't too smart now, baby. He's dead. All right?
He's dead.
Okay.
But you don't make any sense because in one breath you're saying yes, you like Castro, you would live there, you would put up with it, and then the other breath you're saying you would fight for the American Army.
Talk,
but then on the other hand you're saying you would fight for the American Army. You don't make any sense. Who do you want to believe in?
Whoever pays the most money.
Do you want to believe in America or do you want to believe in Cuba?
I believe in the greed,
no value
money.
for human life. He does not care about humans. We are humans. We are flesh. We are blood. He does not care about human life.
He does. How do you know
so he
that?
can bomb this country? If he's going to bomb this country, why don't you go live there so you can't be bombed?
Nuclear warheads aimed at this country.
So then this country...
Nuclear warheads aimed at Atlanta, Miami, New Orleans, Dallas.
He has all the nuclear warheads pointed at
that I work with that
Personally, I like Castro. But why doesn't the United States just point their nuclear warheads, blow the damn island, kill everybody on the island,
we have
and forget about it? And forget about the island.
Wait a second. It's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. But let me tell you, I got a better solution. Fidel is not married. You guys sound like you make good husband and wife. Why don't you get together? Go ahead, pal. Tell me what you think. Go ahead.
What goes me more than anything else is these politicians that go down to Cuba, they kiss his butt. And actually, we should be going down there and kicking his butt.
One of the great reasons for a guy by the name of George McGovern getting his butt kicked was because he took a little venture down there in 1972, right before his election. Thought it was going to help him.
That's why he got his ass kicked in the election.
Yeah, and he's now back being an assistant something or other, pal.
I just want to say, I think the man that thinks that Castro is such a genius, it's obvious how stupid he is when he says, why don't you just aim your missiles at that?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Michigan.
Also, I want to say that Castro wants us to celebrate something for him. The only thing I'll be celebrating is his death.
The only thing a thing I remember from being a little kid, and one thing I remember from history and all when I was a little kid, is being scared of the Cubans. The Cubans have missiles aimed at us, the Bay of Pigs, all that stuff. That's all I remember, and I'm not celebrating his birthday, and I don't like him.
The only thing I knew about the Bay of Pigs was a beach I went to in a band. I saw a lot of them.
All I have to say, this man says that the Cubans, he's such a genius. You don't see none of us trying to go take a boat over to Cuba, do you? We are. The Cubans come over here, because this is where it's at, you know what I mean?
And I might add, come down to the microphone. We can't hear you. Your mouth's big, but you still don't carry.
Yeah. All the Cubans are coming here, but he's down there. Why? Because he has everything he needs. He doesn't need to come here.
Man, you're not making sense. You're not making sense. Hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of Cubans have
because he treats them like crap.
Right, this is a genius, though. You said he's treating them like that.
He is a smart man.
Why? Because he came out of the hills?
Because the man
is a smart man. Because he came out of the hills with American money. American money supported him all the way.
American money that he made here.
The New York Times and a lot of other people. Bundy Griffin and all those people. It was their money, and now he's killing people.
But he
I'll tell you what, a Cuban horror story with a happy American ending. Stay with us. Tonight, let's have a celebration. El Presidente de Muerte. Our celebration is of life, not the death that you have brought to Cuba, you of the death leadership. Tonight, I would like to introduce you to a father and a son. Internationally known saxophonist, Paquito de Rivera, and his son is going to be a great clarinetist. Let me introduce, just home to his father from Cuba, where he was held hostage for 8 years, Franco de Rivera. Franco, this, Paquito, how does it feel to be sitting right here next to your son, Franco? A stupid question, but tell us.
No, I think it's a very smart question. And you are a genius, like Fidel. I asked the same question to him when he arrived here. And you know what he says? That I feel alive. Yeah, he's like coming back to life. I have been eight years of struggle and suffering. I know that, but it worth it.
You carried through for 8 years after your defection, which you made, I believe, in 1980 in Madrid.
In Spain.
When you were on tour. Was the only chance you were going to have to get out of that country, and a chance possibly to bring your wife and your son out of the country. Tell me about the last 8 years of your life.
The last 8 years of my life have been a combination of enjoying a lot this country, because it was like a dream. Even before Castro, he had a dream to come to this country and play jazz music in New York, you know.
Jazz?
Yeah.
And you're known as the best?
Well,
you're known as the best Latin jazz player in the world.
Well, I had to pay my rent.
Gee, you could have gotten free rent in Cuba, couldn't you?
I don't remember that place. When I feel like homesick, I go to Miami.
I know that Franco does not speak English yet, but like all good Cubans, Franco, bless them, they come to this country and no time they pick up American, English. How does it feel for Franco? Franco, how does it feel for you to be in the United States?
¿Cómo tú te sientes de estar en los Estados Unidos de América?
Me siento libre, me siento libre.
Hey, I feel free at last.
What was it like for him down there, Paquito? Would you ask him to tell
You
us?
know that
I'm sure you know already.
there was a journalist in Miami who was asking him about, how you feel and all that, and then he went to the Bayside, and there's a big building there and a beautiful ¿cómo se dice?
That big new building in Miami in the Bayside.
¿Y cómo se dice el bridge ese que se levanta? No, eso en español, coño. Uh-huh. And then what he say, he looks at the bridge and say, what does that mean? It's like, hell, what is this? You see? It was a surprise for him to feel this and to feel free. Yeah. He had been through a lot of pain and struggle there.
We don't even understand this in this country. And we can't even comprehend it. We say, oh, hell, we're prisoners of our job. We're prisoners of the Queens, the Bronx, Brooklyn, Staten Island, Los Angeles. Here is a kid who was a prisoner from the age of 5. All of a sudden, he sees a drawbridge. He sees things that you and I see every single day. Man, and he feels free. What is it like to feel free? We don't know, because we've never been really captive. Brenda is your fiancée.
Brenda's my fiancée, and I must tell this because she's not going to tell you. She's a very humble person. But she had the brush of this responsibility to bringing them here. Thanks to Brenda, Franco and his mother are here now.
But the beautiful part is Brenda went and met your wife in Cuba.
Yeah.
You refused to divorce your wife for the simple reason, knowing that if you did, you would never be able to bring that beautiful woman to this country. She'd remain a captive in Cuba. But Brenda, I mean, this is the most beautiful. I mean, some sick son of a bitch will pervert this, all right? But it's the most beautiful story I've ever listened to. A man and his loves. His loves include his ex-wife, his fiancée, his son, and he brought them here. And Brenda played a big part, didn't you?
Yeah, and we are going to be married very soon.
Good. Well, I'm going to do that pretty soon myself. And look, will the camera please recognize this beautiful woman, Paquito's former wife, applauding that good news. Happy to be in America? Very happy.
Ahora hablaste inglés, ¿tú ves?
The joyful, coming up, my friends, the joyful music of a Cuban family. Americans!
Don't use plain...
Momentito, por favor. All right, before we come back to Paquito, all right, and to that fantastic band that he has with him that's appearing in New York right now, let me go to a gentleman who is a loudmouth number 2. His name is Jose Linares. Linares. Jose, you're an attorney who was born in Cuba. I told you Franco is 13 years old, about the same age you came over here.
Same age like as I was when I came over.
Fidel Castro.
And
a son of a bitch or a humanitarian.
That son of a bitch that you see on that TV there, that son of a bitch is the worst, most terroristic, murderous person in the history of this world right now. You know, growing up, I came here at the age of 13. Thank you to this country and the democracy that we have here today, I was able to become successful and be an attorney. That doesn't happen in that country. And the guy who talked about Castro before, we have a word for him in Spanish. It's called tontos útiles, useful idiots. Because what happens is they go around spouting this, they go ahead spouting this liberal leftist stupidity.
It's not even liberal, it's just fascist stupidity.
Everybody talks about the 6 million Jews that died. Let me tell you, there are millions and hundreds of thousands of people who are dying today and rotting in prisons throughout the communist world. And you have the son of a bitch 90 miles away from the United States, and the government is talking about starting relations with Cuba again. Let me tell you something, pal. Cuba is the worst thing that can happen to this country. You give this guy a chance, you're going to have nuclear weapons. They are pointing at the United States. You give him a chance, he'll fire them.
El Presidente de Muerte. It's a name that fits him well, isn't it?
That's absolutely correct. That's
Che Guevara. Was Che Guevara, I mean, were they those two
let me tell you, Che Guevara, after Castro took over, he was his henchman. He was glorified by the American press. Afterwards, when he went to South America.
By the Village Voice and a lot of that type of American press.
That type of American press, not your type of American press. But this man, Che Guevara, was responsible for the execution of hundreds of thousands of Cubans. He would go down the street. I saw this man, Che Guevara, on a Jeep come to my neighborhood, drag a little boy younger than this man here out of his house, his father out of his house, take him away, and they shot this guy. This is the kind of Cuba that this kid was living with for the last 8 years of his life.
30th anniversary for that son of a bitch. We're going to help celebrate it with him. We celebrate it when he's laid out in a box and dead. Now, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. For 8 years, Paquito de Rivera composed a song, and in every concert he played, he performed that number because it was Song for My Son. The plaintive notes of a man begging for the return of his family, for his son to come home to a country which incidentally had double-crossed the Cuban people at the Bay of Pigs, had left them down there to be killed on the beaches, and they were, and abandoned on the beaches, a mistake that we admit and that we apologize for. For the first time on national television, I would like to ask Paquito. He would play it for all of America. Franco, para usted, mi amigo, su padre, Song for My Son. That's a song for Paquito's son. But it's a song for every son who is held hostage from the ones who love them. We'll be back in just a minute.
You're watching Morton Downey on 31.
Paquito, you reached out to the international community. What real response did you get, sir?
That was incredible. Really incredible. I got so mad at what happened lately that I canceled every engagement I had. I bought a telefax. The first thing I did, I called him on telephone, and I got through, which is very hard. And then Eneida was on telephone, and I say, I want to talk to my son. I say, Franco, you? Yeah. I want to ask you a question. Do you believe in me? You trust me? They say, yes. I know they were recording the conversation. That's why we got through so easily. And I say, you trust me? You believe in your father? He say, definitely, totally. And say, all right. I am going to get you out of there. If they want or if they don't want, you will get out of the country very soon. Believe it or not. I use all the words in Spanish, and you know that. Van a salir por aquello que toca Tito Puente, ¿sabes?
Now that I assume is your mother who is sitting over there.
She was waiting and crying for 8 years.
All right.
Because she suffered the same thing that I suffered double. Because she left in 1968. And
6 years after the missile crisis.
9 years after, I saw I found my mother for the first time. So it was about the same.
Brenda, let me ask you a question. Would you ask Anita how she felt about having her husband leave his family and seek political asylum?
¿Cómo te sentías que tu esposo saliera de Cuba, tuviera que salir de Cuba y dejar su familia para pedir asilo político?
Realmente eso no refleja ni más ni menos que la única posibilidad que tienen los intelectuales y algunas personalidades destacadas del país de poder salir del mismo. O sea, no existe otra vía, no existe posibilidad alguna de hacer ninguna otra cosa.
I understood some of it, I don't understand it all.
She says that's the only option that any intellectual, anybody has, is to leave the country to make their life, to really make something of themselves, because there are no possibilities. There's no other option. So she respects that, and she respected that. She said that was really
I believe, if I look back, if I remember the history of your case very well, you met perhaps in 1970. You were an architect. Paquito was a musician. Brenda, you yourself are a very well-known singer, Brenda Feliciano. When you say intellectual, I assume you mean anyone who thinks. You don't have to be an elitist intellectual.
Well, everything is so controlled over there. I mean, I went there for a week, and I could feel all the tension. I could feel the people, and I could see their sadness. Cubans, by nature, are very happy people. And I think somehow...
Music is happy.
I think somehow that is somewhat a way of trying to cope with the sadness, the tragedy that island is under. It's a mess. And I am not Cuban. I am Puerto Rican. And I don't, I sometimes think, some Puerto Ricans want that for Puerto Rico. Cuba is a beautiful island filled with beautiful people. They're loving people, and they're totally controlled, and you could see it. There's all kinds of police. On every corner, there's police, so you can say just residents. They're policing on you. They want to know what you do, where you go, Who do you?
There is a big brother system.
Yes, it's
There
awful.
was the same system that Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany used. Children squealing on their parents.
Yes. Yes, go right ahead, sure.
Every story with a happy ending like we have here, we have thousands of stories of people who cannot get out of Cuba, who want to get out of Cuba.
Not only Cuba. The problem is that not only Cuba, that's been happening for 70 years. Marx invented this system. Lenin had that since 1918. This is not new.
No.
Because we were focusing too much only in what happened in Cuba. That happened in Poland, in Nicaragua, in Bulgaria, in Russia. It's the saddest country in the world, and the people is beautiful there.
We talk about happy music. We talk about happy music, all right? Happy people. The music of Cuba is happy. The music of its people is happy. Chip Deffa is a jazz critic for the New York Post. Chip, what about jazz in Cuba? Is there free expression?
I wish there were, but you're not going to find any dictatorship on the right or the left that's going to be pro-jazz. Cuba has given many great jazz musicians to the world, and if there was a free exchange, if people could go freely, they'd be still enriching our country. And Paquito is known worldwide, but in Cuba they have to bootleg his tapes because the government suppressed it.
One reason go to George again, all right? Jorge. Jorge. Is Jorge here, please? Jorge didn't make it tonight, all right? Then let me go to Franco. Please ask your son, is the United States his new home? Does he feel it as his home? And is he happy to be here? And is he going to be a musician like his pop?
He had no choice. que si tú te sientes en este país como tu propio país, como tu propia tierra, como tu nueva patria. Yeah. We learned that from my mother. My mother is not only an American, she's a New Yorker.
Mama, Mama, let me ask you. What does it feel like to have your grandson home?
Well, I feel so happy. I can express how happy I feel with my grandchild here. I was waiting for years and years, and meanwhile, I enjoy America, but I miss my family, so at least I have my family here. God bless America.
God
right.
Bless America. I know something. God bless America. We've done. We've had a number of shows over the last year and a half on people learning to speak the English language, people involving themselves in America, becoming part of the system, and enjoying and loving what they find here. Perfect example, 1968. She can talk to us 20 years later as though she were here her entire life. Young man, Franco, now I want to talk to you about whether you're going to play jazz clarinet, a la your father, or perhaps if your dad will let you hang around me for a while. Wait a second. Hang around Uncle Morty for a while, and maybe we'll learn a little rock and roll and country.
All right, that sounds good to me.
Okay, ask him if it's okay.
Yeah. Dice que él sabe que tú vas a ser un clarinetista de jazz, pero que si tú jangueas un poco con él, te enseña también a tocar rock and roll y country. ¿Está bien?
Rock and roll country. Same in any language. Hey, Franco.
Rock and roll and country, but what country?
Jazz, huh?
No. Everything.
Okay, we'll be right back with the audience. Stand by. Is it time? Let's drain the emotion from ourselves for a moment. Let's drain from our minds the fact that Fidel Castro, el Presidente de Muerte, has never done a damn thing for his people. He's promised agrarian reform. He's brought them nothing but sorrow, starvation, poverty, lack of education. Is it time that we think of a normalization Now hold it. A normalization of relations with Cuba. And I ask the question for this reason. Are we bringing out the Francos by holding off this madman? Or indeed, could we now embrace those who really desired freedom in Cuba and bring them to this country if we had a normalization of diplomatic relations and that were part and parcel of the package that allowed us to normalize relations? Let me ask you, Paquito, your thoughts.
I think that normalizing the relation with Cuba is not helping the people there at all. At all.
Why?
Because they never see the result of the negotiation with any country, not only with the United States. Many countries, they close the embassies in Cuba, and then when they reopen again, the embassies and the business things and all that, the people never saw that. People
but if
never
indeed
see
there
that.
were a normalization of relations where part of that package were El Presidente de Muerte, any Cuban who wishes to immigrate to the United States or any other country, if we are to have normalization of diplomatic relations, that must be a given.
Well, he will be alone in the island. He will be Robinson Crusoe.
Good. Maybe the man can get along with himself a lot better. Let me hear you, sir.
It would never happen. First of all, remember before when you said we don't understand what it's like, the people in America, because you haven't lived under that regime? It's true, you don't understand. If you normalize relationships with this son of a bitch, he's going to do whatever he wants in Cuba, and the Americans are going to be taking the murderers and the thieves like you did in the big bulk of the
Well, that was during a time when we had a president who really wasn't,
Carter.
you know.
But let me tell you something. Castro's got complete control over that island. He's got complete control over the people who leave and the people who stay, whether you have normal relations or not. And if you do that, if you normalize relationships with that type of a country, you are legitimizing a terroristic government, just like you would do with Arafat or the PLO or anything like that, because he's worse than those people.
Would you suggest then, as has been suggested in the past, that if this country had any muy grande cojones, you would kill that son of a bitch?
You would do with Cuba what you did with Grenada. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You would do with Cuba what you did with Grenada, and we would be raising the American flag down in Cuba.
How deep is the leadership of the Castro regime? If the head of the regime is cut off,
the head of the regime is in Moscow.
Right.
Castro's a puppet, but he's an evil puppet, and he's sitting 90 miles.
But now we are dealing, supposedly through Glasnost, with Moscow. We are dealing with a nation that admits it has 20% poverty, which means it probably has 40% poverty. We are dealing with a nation that requires dealing with the United States if it is to survive, and we, the all-time suckers of the world, will take care of that. Indeed, can we convince the leader of Cuba living in Moscow to put Mr. Castro in his place so that he has to allow freedom for his citizens?
I can't believe that a total dictatorship such as Castro is going to allow that to happen.
Right now, Castro's getting money when he can. He got $25,000 out of Paquito, and he will keep using his people as produce.
Wait a second. Tell me the $25,000.
Paquito can tell you more how the racket works between the visas and all the...
What happened?
It's a racket. When you decide to leave the country, the first thing they tell people is, forget about it, return to your work. You are not going to be out of this country never in your life. They told her that, and she believed it. See?
Your son was just a few weeks away from being too old to get out, because at 14, I believe he had to go into military service.
Yeah, that's another thing.
And that's a 13 or 17-year commitment.
Yeah, to 27 years old. And then, after you say, I am leaving the country anyway, so they make you resign your job. So you don't have money anymore. So who send the money? I send the money. I've been sending money to her to support my son and to support herself. And then after that, they say, well, now this is funny. They say, okay, we're going to leave you. We're going to let you go. Now you have to pay for your house. So I pay for a house that is mine, because my grandmother built that house in 1929. So you pay for the house and you leave the house. It's like going to Macy's and buy a tie and say, how much is that? It's $29.95. You give the $29.95 and you give the tie to the manager. You have to pay for that. That's not... Oh, so she's an architect. So you have to pay for her career, which is supposed to be free. Education free. It's not so free. I have to pay for her
education.
Education, which is supposed to be free. After that,
an education she had already received.
Yeah.
And now you were going to have to pay
She
again.
was working for years as an architect there, so you pay for that. I don't remember for what else I paid. For everything.
The visa is $5,000 to get a visa.
A visa with his camarade in Panama.
So he who hated
Mr.
capitalism now liked it if he could get $5,000 out of something.
Yes, there is, you know, when I went to Cuba, there is a bunch of stores that are only for tourists. I sneaked in through Canada, and I was scared. I was told, do not take American money because that is illegal, and you'll be jailed. It's against the law. We don't have any kind of treaty with Cuba. I went to these stores so that I could buy some clothes, because it's very difficult. You are rationed. You know, there's a ration book, and you're rationed food, and you're rationed, and some things are depleted, so you don't get them. So most Cubans survive because their families help them from here. But the thing is that these diplomatic stores, I saw the Russians buying goods with American dollars. That's all they wanted, American dollars. And you can see the farce. Cuba is in a very bad condition economically, and they do, and there's a whole bunch of racketeering involved with other countries. They sell freedom. You know, there's all kinds of envoys in the United States that will approach and have approached us to try to tell us, we can help you if you can give us $30,000, but you have to keep quiet. For a while, we were very quiet. We lost money. We were beaten out of a lot of money, and we didn't know because we're scared. I mean, they use a lot of tactics to scare these people.
They're starving, and the only reason they're talking about stabilizing relationships with the United States because they're starving and they need our money. That
Same
is the
reason the
only
Russians have glasnost, all right?
That's correct.
I want to ask a question. Paquito, I don't know if you'll allow this to happen. The 13-year-old son, Franco, when he arrived in the United States, you gave him a new clarinet.
Oh, yeah.
A new licorice stick on life.
How do you know that name of that instrument?
Oh, I know. A new licorice stick on life. We talk about freedom. This is going to be freedom. Franco has never played on national television. I would like to ask if you would let him assist in a song. Franco! We'll come right back. Come on. Come on.
Money in
All right. Let me go this young man. We heard him earlier. You've heard the story now tonight. What do you think about normalization?
I don't think that the United States should have any relations with Cuba. My personal opinion of Castro is my personal opinion, but like he said, all they are doing is taking the money. All they're doing is taking the American money. With that, I agree with him. They are milking the people who are here and have families over there, you know, so they could bring them over to this country. I don't think that they should have any relations with them.
Genius or no genius, the man's a scum.
That's what I said from the beginning.
New York Post.
You know, it's not a happy ending for everyone. Paquito only got his son out because the international media put so much pressure and it embarrassed Castro greatly. All over the world, Argentina, the jazz papers, all over, publicized it. But for every Franco that gets out, there's plenty more that don't. And we'd like to get enough pressure. It's not a conservative issue. It's a human rights issue. So whether you're conservative or liberal, you should be trying to get some pressure on Castro to let some of these people go.
That happening in all the socialist countries. That's happening. That's happening not only there. It's happening in Nicaragua. As I said before, it's happening in Nicaragua. It's happening in Poland. It's happening in all the paradise of the workers around the world. You see, it's happening all over. A paradise without an exit door is an inferno.
Sir?
Let me ask you a question. Why is this guy still alive?
I have no idea. He's still alive because in 1960 we blew it, 61 we blew it in the Bay of Pigs. He's still alive because the so-called organized crime in this country couldn't even hit the guy. He's still alive because so many liberals in this country think it's inhuman to take the life of a killer. Those same people who would have refused to kill Adolf Hitler, all right, are the same people that refuse to eliminate from the face of this earth a slime ball like El Presidente de Muerte.
Paquito's made a public call for plebiscite in Cuba, and I think we could all support that. That has nothing to do with whether you assassinate a leader or anything like that. It's just giving the people a vote like they had in Argentina or in Chile or any place else.
Yes, we hear all about Chile. We hear about Allende.
I don't think it's bad to see his 31st anniversary.
Yeah, we hear about Allende. We hear about all the problems. But yet right here, 90 miles from the back door of America, we hear nothing. Paquito, would you take your band? Bring us some peaceful music, some fun, some love.
I think
would you intro all the members of your band, especially that 17-year-old drummer? All right.
Yeah. Zach Dassinger is the drummer. And we have Lincoln Goins on the bass. We have a very young and talented piano player from Panama, Mr. Danilo Perez. And finally, a gentleman who has been with me for good. Coming to America gave me the opportunity to meet this beautiful musician, one of the greatest trumpet players ever, Monsieur Claudio Roditi on the trumpet.
Paquito will play for us from the heart of love, freedom, something we accept and understand and know, and yet we don't know what it is not to have freedom. To this pig who says he will give us the milk of human kindness. There's the milk of human kindness. Play!
The funniest people come out at night on the Arsenio Hall Show. Next, right here on 31 UHF.